So first you can, really sorry, let me just start the recording. Yeah. So what is Log4j? Log4j2. It's like Log4j is like, basic version of like, logging information. Log4j2 is kind of like, enhancement for the Log4j. So why do we need to use this one? It's like to understand, like to log the information. Okay. What are the different levels of logs that we have and the levels of information that we are going to capture? We'll discuss about it. Okay. So this is like logging purpose. Okay. So some kind of like information that you want to log, how this control is executing and what are your scripts that you are executing and what exactly your scripts are doing. Okay. Instead of writing it on the system.out every time, we are going to record it under the log. Okay, log file that it's going to create during the runtime. So here you can see this is all about information and what are the requirements, and yeah, here we can see the documentation of this Log4j. It includes some enhancements. Okay, so it has included some enhancements, and you can see what are the different log information that we have here in this. Okay, so let me just go back to this and Log4j2. In log levels, that we'll see that log levels in Apache. So here you can see it is showing like levels. So we'll try to see what are the different log information that we have. Here we can see debug, all, info, warn, error, fatal, off, and trace. So all levels, including custom levels that you want to see the information about, like, what like debug is like, it's going to find, like, it's going to still go and show us the information about how exactly the logs are being created. Yeah. Just give me a second, guys. Take that. Come. Yeah. So here we can see that logging information. I'll discuss about like how this logging information will be done. Okay. So now we'll see what are the different types of, and like what are the different ways of creating the Log4j2. Help of, like, we can see Log4j2. We have like, two ways of doing it. One is like XML file. Another one is like we have a properties file. Okay. So we can have this XML file, like, basic information, like properties and XML file, which is given as part of our documentation here. Okay. Logging services, and how do we configure it, and how do we use this Log4j to record the information from the scripts. Okay. So we are going to see that everything. So here you can see this is like, standard kind of like, sample example, which is given for using the Log4j. Okay. So here you can see this is like a configuration. What is it? We have different tags here. You can see this is different tag. And within this tags, you can see it is given like, configuration test name, and what is the status that you want to log. Okay. So error, we have the information. We already looked into the study level side. Here you can see. Okay. So what it does is like, if you say all, it's going to record about like, debug information. So what is happening within the system, and where exactly the information, like it will show you all the information about it. Okay. We'll discuss about these levels when we are executing our scripts. Okay. So now you can see that system property arbitrary, property name, environment dev. So this is like called general configuration. And you can see console name is like out. Where do you want to print your information, log information? We have two things. One is like console, another one is like file. Okay. So console is like, it will print every information about the execution. If I open this sample class here, so when you execute this information, what do you see here? You see this information, right? So let me just clean it out. So I'll go and execute this, and we'll see what happens here. we get only system.out.println, right? So I don't want to get all this, like, I want to use this system.out.println. I just want to use the logs, and that log should be, whatever information that we are putting as per that particular log, it should print in this console. Okay. So in that case, what we are trying to do is like, we are trying to, let it execute. Now we can see that all information being logged on the console. Okay. But I don't want to use this system.println. I just want to use the logs, and I want to get the information about the execution. Okay. So now here, when you go here, you can see it is showing like, sample test Google. Okay. It is like static way that whatever I'm going to give here, it's going to print it. Okay. But instead of using the system.out.println, I want to use the logs. Okay. So how do we configure these logs, and what are the different ways of configuring that we can see? Okay. So currently I have some file here, which is like, I've already created this with the help of like, XML. So here also we have the same information. Okay. But here we have properties file. Okay. So you can see not this one. This is XML file. Yeah. Let me just go to the property files. Yeah, you can see this is like different. This is also XML file, but we can add the properties here. Static XML, and with JSON also we can do, and with YAML also we can do, and we can do with the properties file. This is a property file. Okay, so this is a property file. Within this property file, we can just see what are the things that we have here is like append. So these are the different tags that we are going to use. Okay, let's take a simple example first, and we use only to log the information. Okay, we don't configure anything as part of like a log4j. Okay, so let me explain you about like what are the different tags that we use here, and how do we log the information in file as well as like on the console. Okay, so here we are setting up like, console. Okay, console and the pattern. What do you want the pattern? It's like kind of like, percentile element. Percentile element is like kind of like it's going to show you the information about the we have like what is the date and time. Okay, so date and time it's going to print on it. And next thing is like we in this console, just we are defining the pattern for the information that we want to print on the console. Okay, likewise we have information that we want to print on the file, but also we can add. Okay, so one is like we have a pattern type in this pattern layout in the console. What is the pattern layout that we want to have this, and inside this we can configure one more thing is like pattern file. Okay, so I'll just show you here. I have this file here. I'll just explain this file also. You can see that console name. What is that console appender? Just I'm giving a console appender. And where do you want to print that? System underscore out is nothing but it's going to print it on the console. And pattern layout is like, what is that pattern layout that you want to print? Here you can see this is date and this is time, and this is kind of like information. Okay, MSG percentile n is nothing but information. Okay, so there we have only percentile element. Percentile n is nothing but it's going to print that information on that particular console. Now this is like console part, and file appender is like if you want to print the information, whatever we are putting as part of this console, right? This particular editor, right? So whatever I'm putting it here, like system.out.println. So instead of this, we are going to use log.info. There we are going to give this information. Okay, so I want to print this information in the logs. So there, if you want to print that information in the file, then we have to use the file appender. Console appender is like it will keep on printing those log information on the console, and file appender is like it will keep on printing that information into the file. Okay, so here we can see what is the format and what is the file name that you want to create. Okay, file name would be like in application and date and time dot log, and immediate flush is like after completing that it's going to close that. Okay, immediate flush is like if you are setting it as like false, it will keep on appending those information. Immediate flush is like if you set true, then it's going to immediately close that one. So these are like all properties. We need not to change anything. This is one-time configuration. Just you need to use this file, or else you can create your own file with the help of this. Already we have this. This is nothing but log. This is nothing but the default things which are given by the Apache Log4j. Okay, so this documentation you can see. These are all default. Okay, so whatever you want to use, like you can change this. Just copy it and paste it in your XML file. Then you can change your information, like where do you want to store this information. Okay, so what is the script language that you are using? What is that console that you want to name it? And what is the pattern that you want to paste it? See, pattern is like I just took pattern from the default place. You can find the pattern, different patterns also here. Okay. So need not to spend much time on it, just you need to see. Now we have like pattern layout. If you want this pattern layout, I've taken the same pattern layout. Okay. So I just copied this and I'm putting it here. Okay. You can see the same information that we have here. Okay. So you need not to spend much time on it, only that you can have all this information readily available. Just you need to configure this log4j XML. Okay. So now you can see that information will be printed like this. See, my app, entering application, entry, DD tagging. So these are like different set of information that you want to print as part of logs. Okay. So let's go ahead and try to configure this. Okay. So we'll see what are the different levels that we want to use. So to have this log4j, first and foremost thing is like we need to have the dependencies. Okay. Log4j dependencies. So here you see, I'm just taking this sample. Yesterday I just send it over the WhatsApp. You can use this one sample project. In that you can find this form.xml. Okay. So here you can see this was like sample thing that we have added the log4j also yesterday along with the properties. Okay. So log4j2.version, log4j2.version for this core and API. So these are the two dependencies that we need to have. Okay. To log the information in console as well as like file. Okay. So now what I will do is like, we need to have this log4j2.xml file created under the resource folder. Okay. That's nothing but it's a source folder of the Maven. So where do we need to place that XML? First, I'll go and create that XML file. Okay. So let me just, if I create it here, so again, we need to copy that particular XML file in the source folder. So before that, I'll just go ahead and try to create this source folder. How do we create the source folder now? We go here. So I'm just creating source main resource. Okay. Source main resource. So now we got the source folder here. Okay. We got the source folder. Inside the source folder, I'm going to create a XML file. And I'm going to name it as like, so we have to name it as like log4j2.xml. Okay, log4j2.xml. Okay, so next, click on next and you can finish it. So once you create this, it will just create a blank. So instead of creating it a blank, now once you have to create that XML file, after that you can copy paste this. Okay. Now we have this log4j2 file configured. Okay. So now I want to use this log4j2 file. Okay. log4j2.xml and I want to log the information. Okay. So what is the test that we have created? Here we have created the test. Okay. So this test, I need to log the information, whatever information I have here, I want to log this information. Okay. For this, what I'm going to create is like, I'm going to create a simple yeah. Under this, I'm going to create a util package. Okay. Utils. And here I'm going to create a class. Okay. Logger class. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. So I'm just creating a logger class. Inside this logger class, I'm just taking some information like logger. Okay. Logger. Log. Okay. So now you need to import the package from log4j. Okay. You can see it is throwing the error. So what is that package that we need to import is like we need to import it from the log4j. You can see that logger Apache logging log4j. Okay. So this is what the package that we need to import. okay, to support the logger information. Now I'm just going to create a method public static. So it's going to return me the logger. Okay, get log. On which class you want to get the log is like we have to put the just class. Okay, so class here. So what I'm trying to do is like I want to record this particular information on the classes. Okay, so let us take like I want to record information on this test class. I need to give the class here. Okay, so I'll show you like how do we exactly use it. Okay, I'm just naming it as like a class, and here I'm just checking if log is equals to null, then I'm going to return log is equals to logger dot. We have a logger name. It's log manager, guys. Okay, it's log manager dot get this just directly we can go at first. I'll do the one thing like I'll just create the class here and I'll show it in two ways like how do we exactly use it. Okay, so here else data log manager. I'm just going to so we have to use this one. Okay, log4j dot get log, get logger on class that we have to use. Okay, so class dot class. Okay, get class. So this is what the package that we have to import. Okay, so let me just cut it, and we have to not from the util log manager, that we have to take it from the Apache log. Okay, let org.log. Okay, I'm just taking SAR so that we can import all those things. Okay, so we can import all the packages from log4j. Now we have created a log4j class, and this log4j class will, whenever we call this get log, okay, get log. So what it does is like it's going to record the information about this particular class. Okay, so we need to pass as like class as a parameter here. Okay, class as a parameter, and it's going to initialize this log. This is nothing but an object that we are going to create. Okay, this class, this is an interface, and you can see that implementation. This is the implementation class of it. Okay, now we go and try to change our scripts here. Okay, so how do I get it now? So there we have already written that, right? So directly I'm going to use logger dot. So what is that class name that we have created? Logger class dot get log. Okay, so get log. So first initially what we need to do is like we have to create a class for that. Okay, let me just create here. When what we need to get the information about this particular class, right? So I'm going to create a log here. Log is equals to logger log class name dot get class. Okay, so what is the class here? Test class dot class. Okay, what is that package that we have to import is like we have to import this log4j. Okay, log4j, you can see it should be here. Yeah, this is what the package that we have to import. So now we got the log dot info. Okay, now you can see the information that you want to show it. Okay, log dot info, and here also I'm going to put log dot info. Okay, we'll try to execute one, then we can test rest of the things. Okay, now you see that what I've done. So I've just created XML file and I'm putting that XML. This is mandatory. Okay, source main resources. It should be under source main resources. Okay, this log4j log4j2.xml file should be under source main resources. Okay, see after that what I'm trying to do is like I'm just trying to create a util package. Under that util package I'm just creating a class wherein I'm going to load the log4j file here. Okay, that's nothing but I'm just loading that log4j. Okay, so what it instead of creating for each and every classes, I'm just creating a separate method, and in that method I'm just passing the class name and returning the log. Okay, so now this is like, this is like basic way that we are going to use as project every time. But in case of like, if you want to have this separate logger, like, if you want to create logger and if you want to have this class defined for each and every class, that is also quite possible that we can do. Okay, instead of using this get log, directly you can use get manager. So whatever we have written here, right? So this piece of information we can write over there. Okay, instead of writing that, instead of again and again, I'm going and trying to create an object for that logger. I'm just creating that one object at a time and then returning object to the each and every class. Okay, so now we'll go and try to execute this. Okay, so we don't have any information here, right? So we don't have any kind of like app log application.log file is created here. Okay, and we don't have any system.out to print this particular information. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to execute this program and see what is the output. See, do you see this now? It is like it is showing at what time and from where we are getting this. What is this information that we are printing it here is like log java.lang.class and it is like Google. Okay, sample test class here. Okay, so these are the two things that we are getting. So earlier we used to get like only Google and sample test. Now it's going to record the log here. At what time it has executed and how many milliseconds it has taken and what is the output. Okay, so here this is on the console and in the log also, like in the file also, it's going to record. It's going to give us the timestamp along with the this is the name of that particular log and the timestamp. Okay, open this and you can see the information. Okay, so now what is happening is like now everything is getting logged. So we'll try to change the information. Like instead of info, I'm going to use debug. Okay, now we'll try to execute more number of test cases, then we can understand how exactly this works. Okay, so copy. So here I'm going to put debug and here I'm going to put some debug and we'll see the information. Okay, so I'm going to remove this comments. Now I'm going to execute this. First, it will try to see what it is doing. It is showing all the debug information, right? You'll see all these things are recorded as part of console and file also. It will open 3 browsers. First one, Chrome, it has opened. And second, Firefox. The next is like, it's going to open the Edge and we close it. Okay. Now you see that all the test cases are passing here and the information, do you see this information? This is now at the debug level. Okay. So debug level and few things are like, information. So now to see this data, I'm going to just open this file here. You see what is happening? The first thing is like only info. Debug is like, it's going to show you like what exactly it is doing. So it is showing like loaded default, something like whatever we need to, debug it and try to understand. In certain cases, if it is failing, then we want to see that what is happening internally. See from where it is getting this, it is getting like, storing some information in local temp. And we have some information about like, JDKs also it is showing up and threads. Like if you want to debug, dig into deep, like understand what is happening when we are trying to execute this test. Okay, here also you can see the information is logged and debug information. And in this, you can see this is what information which is showing as part of like debug and information. Okay, so debug what now we'll go and try to understand what are the different levels that we have here. Okay, now you see when debug is like designated fine grained, so what it's showing like information level events that are most useful to debug in application. Okay, so you want to understand what is happening behind the scene during the execution. And information is like dedicated information that is highlighted progress for the application. So this is nothing but whatever we are trimming here. Okay. So trimming in the sense I'm just putting this information. Only I want to get the title. Okay. So it will print the title, and title would be printed based on the console configuration, the pattern, whatever pattern that you want to put. It will show you like this is the information, time, and level, and the message. Okay. Message is nothing but whatever we are putting inside this information, info. Okay. So what it does is like it's going to get the title and it's going to print it in that format. Okay. You can change this format. Okay. So it's not only that you want to print this, you can change the format and you can give the format also. If for example, see, this is nothing but seconds that we are adding. So here milliseconds. Okay. So hour, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. And this is the time format that we are specifying. Okay. This is date and this is time and level. Okay. So if what level that the that you want to print it. Okay. So you can see I'm putting it as like debug level. Okay. So root level is like debug level. Here also I'm going to specify it as like debug. Okay. So we can specify it as like debug, and we can specify it as like, when we say information, so it's going to produce only information. Okay. So what is the toppest level here is like when you say trace. Okay. So what nothing but find, if designated find grain information event, that then the debug. Okay. Debug is like it will produce only debug information, but trace is like it will completely give from the root. Okay. So here it is like if you give the trace, it will be covered as part, like you can cover all of these levels. Okay. It's kind of like, when you say all, so we'll see that when you say all here, so what happens is like you can go to this test and you can give the, like if you want to print it as like a error, that will be printing as like a error. Okay. So otherwise I'm going to give the trace. Save it and try to execute this. So we'll see what happens. It'll give all the three traces here. Okay. One is information, another one is like trace. So here also we are going to give. Now you see, it is tracing out all the information, okay, more than the debug. So internally, it's going and trying to trace out from where we are calling and which session we are calling. Everything will be traced out. Okay, it is digging deep into the application and trying to identify the logs, okay, and it is printing those logs in files as well as like console also. So why do we use this? So to have the fine information about your test execution. Okay. So it will show you like instead of using this system.out.println, you can use this log information. Okay. Wherever you want to see the information. So from where you are moving, like, for example, after this, it is getting the title. Okay. So how do you go and check it? Now you see that here, just try to refresh this and we can open this file. When I open this, now it will show that, okay, we are getting the title and we are getting the sample test class as the log information. And here you can see all the debug information is given here. I should have closed it so that it will rewrite the information. But here you can see in the console, it is showing up all the information like, debug as well as like trace. Okay, it is tracing out and it's trying to show you like what exactly is happening during the execution. Okay. So, so generally, yeah, you can see another thing is like it is showing up something log4j. Here you can see debug Apache and the file name it is showing. What is that file that you are trying to execute based on the configuration? So it is located under the target, showing Dell target classes. Under that classes, you are log4j. Okay, let me refresh this. Here it should be there. Yeah, but it's not showing up here. But this it is saying that from where it has picked this like. So it is picking from this Apache core initializing configuration. From where it is configuring, it is showing up the configuration. Okay, so it is picking up the configuration from this particular class. Okay, so that's the thing about XML file. it is picking up the configuration, and based on this configuration, it is printing the information. So here, so generally we put info. Okay. So we put info here, and here also we are going to put the root level is like from where you want to print the information. So if I say info, and I see that you can only get the less info, like only the logging information, like what you want to print the console as well as like file based on your outputs. Okay. I mean, what you are expecting as part of your log files. See now we know we got only Google. It is not logging the trace. Do you see that? Because we have put only the information. Just I want to print the information. You know, go here and you see only the information is printed. Okay, it's not adding more than that because we have set the log level as like input. Go here. You can see it is only appending this information. Okay, not more than that. So you can see this is like I've just put one property here, file reference like logger appender. In this case, what I'm trying to do is like I want to append that, keep on appending the information to that file. Okay, this is nothing but append is equals to true. If I say false, so what it does is like it's going to create a new file every time that we execute. Okay, let's go and try to execute this. Okay, log4j generally will help you to log the information. Okay, log the information is this content that you are returning, you are writing as part of like a test and returning to the console and file. Okay, that's nothing but it's just writing on the console and file. Okay, three classes, three tests got executed, and we are going to just refresh it. Oh, sorry, I just open this log file. Now you see this? So it is like it is cleaning up everything and it is just showing up the latest execution details. Okay, why do we use it? Like use is like we want to, if you want to debug, like we want to understand where the control is being, how this is being moved. Okay, so here you see, after this, I want to say that here I'm putting info. Here I'm putting info. Those are closed. And this here also. So I'll just change this append is equals to. Now it will append. Go and execute it. And you see it will show like every browser is like what exactly it is doing and if that browser is closed or not. See, browser closed, it's showing. So, you know, all the information is logged in console as well as like here in the file also. You can see. So this is the information and open and closed. Google open and closed. Google open and closed. Okay, browser closed. So it's something like it's showing all title and the content that we want to print after that particular step, and it's going to close the browser. Okay, so this information that we can log it. Okay, and as well, I was talking about like if you have multiple classes here. Okay, let me take another class. So We have to configure these files also because we want to execute different classes, right? Putting 2 here and I'm putting 3 here. Okay. So now I want to execute like 3 class information, and every class I want to get the information. So in that case, directly you can see now what is happening here. So automatically it is changing its test room. But here you can see I can directly use it. Okay. So if I say logger is equal to log, so instead of using that log class, I'm just using logger log manager. Okay. So log manager and get login. Okay. So I think it is going. Okay. It is taking this one. I need to take log4j. Come here and remove this. Directly you can use get logger class. Okay. So this is also one way of using the log. Using the log4j or logs that we want. Just giving it as like import and import star. Say everything will be imported. So now you can see this log4j. I'm just trying. Earlier I was trying to get the log manager. That's the thing, but getting this particular log information or initializing this logger in this class. But now what I'm doing is like I'm taking it in a separate class. Okay. So this way also we can do, and this way would help you to log that if it is like already the object is initialized, then we need not to go and again try to write like this. Okay. Again, here it is like I'm explicitly initializing this particular object in this class, but here I'm not initializing. I'm getting it from this class. Okay, so it's simple thing is like this log is equal to, I'm just passing this as like parameter, class as like parameter. Okay, internally we are doing these things. Okay, this thing is like we are doing it here directly, but here in this class what we are trying to do is like we are going to call this method and pass class name as like parameter, and again we are returning the same object there. Okay, if already object is loaded, then we need not to return it. We need not to initialize it, but we can directly return it. Okay, so that's the thing, but I'm just putting a condition here. Check is like log is equals to null. If it is null, initialize it. If it is already there, then return it. Okay, so that is the reason why we are just using this get logger. Okay, where is it? Sorry, get log. Okay, logger class dot get log. This is the only difference. Okay, let me just execute and see what is going to happen here. So we are using it directly, right? Here also, it should do the same thing. Now you see this? It is doing the same thing. What are the steps that we have to follow? I'll just discuss them again. I'll draft it. Paint. Here. Configure log OJ2 log information. What are the steps that we have? First, you need to create. Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
So first, what we have to create is like we have to create a source folder. Okay, if source folder is there, then we need not to create it. So we want to see source folder. SRC main resource. Maven project. Okay, so this is first step. Second step is like
XML file.
create XML file. Okay, create XML file with name log4j2. .xml. Okay, so this is mandatory, guys. Okay, so this is one hard coding thing that we have to do. Log4j2 should be the name of that file. Okay, you cannot give any other name. If you give any other name, it will not recognize. Okay, so under, you have to put it under the source main resources. Okay, so this is another important thing. Okay, we have to configure it under the resources. So we have created this folder. If it is there, if it is not there, okay. So I'll just say that to create source folder not available. Okay. So next is like we have created the source folder and I'll just give this copy XML code. Anyways, I'm going to give the sample XML file that is already there available, right? I'm just giving the reference also. Okay. If you want to configure more, then you can go and select one of the XML files from there. Okay. Copy XML code as per the requirements from location. So this is a location. Okay. Save file. Add logs in the test file. Okay. So I'm just giving the example. Initialize the add log files. Before that, we are going to initialize, right? Initialize log4j to object. Okay. So example, I'm just giving the example here. Example, what do we do is like logger log equals to log manager dot get logger, and we have to give the class name. Okay, I'm just giving it in a bracket, like you can give your class name dot class. Okay, so add logs in the file. So here, after that, we are going to add logs into the files. Okay, so just that I'm going to select it and remove this. So here, okay, I need to expand this one also. Let me remove this. Now, create logs in the test class. Okay, so example, this is going to give is like log dot for browser open. Okay, so this is the configuration part. Okay, so now let's go and try to do it on a real time. Like anyway, we have executed that, right? So just I want to show you as part of like if you are entering username, password. Okay, so let's just stop it. Username, password, and you want to verify these things. Okay, so let me take one class here. I'm going to take these classes. So let me close all of them. So here, instead of putting the things, I'm just going to one. So we try to open this OpenQA or open source of this HRM application. Today we are going to add one more thing, that is nothing but we are going to read this set of things which are like one-time configurable things. and we don't want to change it, right? So in that case, we are going to use the config file, okay? Like properties file, this is which I'm calling it as like config.properties. Okay, I'll show you like how do we read data from the properties file and how do we supply them during the runtime. Okay. Now you see that here what I'm going to do is like I'll just say that log information and browser. Here I'm going to say that browser and log.info. So what is that URL that you have entered? You can pass it. Okay. So URL entered. So after that, what we do? Dot find elements by dot xpath. We have name, right? So we have input the name equals to username. Username dot send keys. Username is like admin. Dot info. Message. What is that message that we want to enter is like username entered. Likewise, I'm going to take this and going to paste it here. Password. 1, 2, 3. Password entered. Okay. So I'll be quitting this browser. Now, if I go and run this, so what we did, like we want to record this information. Okay. So now you see that how is it going to record the information? It's not waiting for that particular object. So let me just put some dot stop timeout stop. This is wait. Seconds. 10 seconds and this put it. Okay. See what it is doing now. See, browser opened, URL entered, username entered, password entered, browser closed. Okay, so this information is logged here. Okay, so refresh and just go here and see that we have this information logged here. Okay, so every time I want to get the fresh log, then you can go here and you can just make it as like false, close this, and now exit again. So we'll still add few more things like I just want to add this one also. Manage dot window dot maximize. Click on run. Okay, this faster actually. Because if anything is not working, then definitely it will throw the error. Okay, so let me just do one thing. I'll just put some red dot sleep here for 5 seconds to see the execution slowly. Meanwhile, you can go and check this report also, but see, at the runtime, you should not open it. I just open it. You can close it because it will write the data. Now you see, username, password is entered and it will close it. Okay, now you see this information is logged. So let me go here and refresh. You got it, right? So this is the thing, but it's going to log the information. So this is all about like how do we log it, the information. So now we see that this is like, I don't want to change it. I want, like, for example, if we are using 10 classes, every time we want to log into the URL. In certain cases, you see that you don't want to change that URL anytime. Okay, username and password, this will not be changing for any application, right? So in that case, what we do is like we are going to have one property file. Okay, so for this property file, so generally what we do is like we are going to read. We have to have the property files to store all this particular one-time configuration. Okay, either it can be a config.json file, or it can be XML file, it can be properties file. Okay, so but now what I'm trying to do is like I'll show you like how do we manage things like which are only one-time configurable. Okay, there could be like username, password, and URLs. This will not change. Okay, so this will not change frequently. So we have to put them under the properties configuration. Okay, for this, what I'm going to do is like I'll create a folder called property files. So in this folder, I'm going to create a file name called config.properties file. Okay. So generally we'll see that I want to read some information from this file. Okay. So it can be URL. So URL is like I want to put some URL here. Username. So every property file will have a key value. Okay? Key and the value. Okay. Key and the value. So here I'm just giving like key and the value. So what is that key for the URL? So we have this is like URL that we have here. Okay. So we know admin password. Username and password is like admin one. Okay. So now I have created this. I need to read the data from this particular file. Okay. So this is one-time configuration. When do we have this properties file is like we want to put something as part of like key value pair. Okay. Key value pair. And we have to use that key value pair. Like, when I just supply the key URL, then it should bring this value. Okay. How do we do this? How do we read this file is like we are going to create a class called. So here I'm going to create a class called property reader. Okay. So property reader. This property reader class will help you to read the data. Okay. What do we need to do is like we need to create object for this properties. Okay. This is a class. Okay. So properties is a class. This class will help you to read the data in the format like hash table. Hash table, what it does is like it's going to take key and the value. Okay. So it is extending this hash table, and this properties class will help you to read the data. So what exactly it does is like you can see the information which is given here. Okay. So properties, you can see class representing a persistent set of properties, and this can be saved to stream or loaded from the stream. Okay. So we have to supply that particular path. This is nothing but this is the path of the file. Okay. Wherein I want to read the data from this file. Okay. And here what I'm doing is like I'm just creating an object for this properties, and we need to load this particular, like we need to create object for this, and we have to load this particular file into this properties object. Okay. So we'll see that how do we exactly do. To read the data from the object or any file, what we use, we are going to use the streams. Okay. We can use file reader and buffer reader and streams also. Buffer reader and file reader, it will help you to read the data from the text.txt files. Okay. But here we are using the object. It's kind of like a object. Okay. Properties file. So we want to just pass the key here, and it should bring the value from that. Okay. So for that, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to use file input stream. Public static file input stream will help you to read the data from that particular file. Output stream is like we can write to the file. Okay. Now, so this is like I don't want to initialize this particular class every time. Okay. For that, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to put this class in a static block. See, this is very important. I'm relating with Java. Okay. So we talked about like instance blocks and static blocks. Static blocks does not require any object. Okay. Instance block require object. Now here what I'm going to do is like I'm going to just take the file location. Okay. So file location also we have to take, and here I'm going to take the file location public static. It is a part of a string, right? File path is equals to. So from where I'm taking this file path, so this I'm taking it from this particular properties. Okay. So double dot is nothing but it will take the current project. Property reader, not property reader, property files. And what is the file name that we have? Config dot. If this doesn't work, we'll go to add the system.get properties. Okay. Config.properties. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to just create object for this. Okay, properties equals to new properties. So before that, I'm going to take f is equals to new. File output stream and file path I'm going to pass. We have passed the file path here. So this will throw the exception. That is the reason why it is asking you to handle it try catch. Now property dot load. Okay. Load, what is that we have to load is like we have to load the file. Okay. So I've created the object. First is like I'm just using this file stream, and this file stream will be passed as like a parameter to this properties dot load file. Okay. So what is this load? See, load is nothing but it's going to accept this input stream. Okay. So what it does is like it's going to load that file as a parameter, like it will take the file and it's going to see. Now it's like read a property list, key and element pairs from the input byte stream. Okay. So this will take care of like, reading the data from that particular file. So here also it's going to throw some exception, because if it is not available, it's going to like, if the file is not available in that location, then it's going to throw the exception. Here it is like, if it is not, file is not found, here your files will be throwing the exceptions. Okay. So now we got it. So after this property, we have created object for this property, and we are passing input stream as like a parameter to this load file. This will take care of like, loading the information of this particular file. Okay. So key value pair will load. Now what I need to do is like, so here what we are trying to do, we are just trying to read the data from the properties file. Okay. So now after that, what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to use a method called prop.get object. Okay. Get method is like, it will give the key and it will return you the object. Okay. Object in the sense value. Okay. So here what I'm trying to do is like, I'm going to give URL, for example, URL. Okay. So let me print this, what is that we have as part of like URL. So it should be URL. Okay. So I'm trying to print this information. Okay, let's execute this class and execute this particular class and see what is the output that I'm going to get. Right click, run as. So we should have. So this is nothing but to execute this class, we should have main method. Okay, otherwise you can call it from the other ways. Go and execute this. See what I'm getting it here. Do you see that I'm passing URL? So I'm getting this URL. So if I pass as like, what is that we have inside this class? See, we have to exactly give this username, like whatever we have key value that we have to give. Okay. So instead of typing it, I'm just copying it and pasting it here. So you got. Then now I'm not worried about like, what is the URL here. Just I need, I'll be like, calling this particular method from this class. Okay. Property dot when I say that if you want to call this method, then see what I'm trying to do is like I'm putting everything as like a static here so that I don't want to create object for this. Okay. But here to get this, I'm going to use a method and this method will be returning that particular value. Okay. Based on the key. So to get it, what I'm going to do is like I'm just going to create a string value. Okay. String static. Else I'm just using this one. So now you see that encapsulation that we are using. Okay, go to the source. I want to get the like in a set and I have to set it and I have to get it. Okay, so that's something. But I'm going to create two methods here. Okay, so let me make it as like in static because we don't have to create object for this. Okay, so static value. Okay, this is not required. So here, let me just create. Right click. To create the getter setter, you have two ways. One is like you can directly use like public void get set. Okay, so that's a method creation. But here it's like we have a feasibility which we can do it from the Excel. Okay, sorry, Eclipse, Excel. Sorry. So right click on this particular variable, go to the source, and you can see we have a getter setter. Okay, so it will ask you to get set, get and set value. So here we got it. Okay, so what is that we want to set now? We want to pass the parameter. Okay, so get value. What is that value that you want to get? You want to get this value. Okay, what is that value that you want to set? Is like we can set this value. Okay, so if I so I want to return this value. Okay, so here I'm going to do like I'll just say string key and key is equals to value. Okay, get set this get value in the sense when I get value, when I say get value, it's going to take this key and key will be like, it will be returning the value. Okay, so what is the key that we are supplying and what is the value that we are going to set? Value is like it's going to set this value. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is like prop dot. So we need to set the value, right? Set value. Directly we cannot call it here, and we have to have some return type here. Yeah, so here I'm going to property dot get key. We have to get this actually when I like get value, it's going to get the string value here. But we have to call this method here. So I can just put it like key here. Okay, so let me just say this is like we are going to return the value of it, right? So we can put it as like return value. Let's say get key, and this key should be supplied as like set key here. Okay, so that's nothing but key dot here. I'm going to put it as like key. So this will return me the value of this. Okay, so you supply this key here. So when this is like called inside this, so get property of get value and the key that we are supplying. Okay, so get value, when I call this method, so what it does is like it's going to return me this value. But before that, what it will do is like we have to set the value of it. Okay, set value is like we have to first set the value, then we are going to get that value from that. So here we can set it. So it is nothing but it's going to return this value, and this will be like first it should be called. Okay, like so this should be with static. So if I don't use the static, then I cannot call because we have to create object for this class. Okay, So otherwise we can do one thing, we can create one method and we can just use it. Okay. So I just, in my project, I've implemented like, I'm just trying to I'll call this like, as an object, as kind of like, static method without any using the object. And directly I'm going to pass the key here. And this key will be like, it will be sent as like a parameter. And this parameter would be returning me the, like it will go and check for this particular object. Okay. This is nothing but object. Get value is like, again, it's going to call this method and this method will take this and it's going to return me the value. Okay. So, but here, okay, let me just remove this data setter. So here, if we are using that particular as like, methods, for example, if you want to set some employee ID, employee name. So in that case, if you want to set value and if you want to get value, that will work here. But here, if you are taking this one as like a static, then it doesn't work in this way. So let me try to do one thing. I can make it as like, let me make it as like a method, public static. I'm going to return the string, get value. Directly, I'm going to take it here. This it's going to return me the, yeah. So here, property dot get here I'm going to pass it as a string. Okay, let me create like this string key. Okay, now you see that what it is doing is like it's I'm going to call this method with the help of this class name. So this will go here and it's going to first take the file path and it's going to load, like create the object for this properties class. It will load that stream and after that it's going to return me that property dot get property. That's nothing but I'm just setting this key as a parameter and based on this key it's going to return with the value. That's nothing but I'm going to get the value as like a string. Okay, let's go and try to implement this one. So here I don't want to use this one. Okay, so for this what I'm going to do is like I'll create some variables here. So that's nothing but we are calling it as like a static, right? So let me just use string URL is equals to, what is that we have? Properties property reader dot get value. What is that we want to use? We want to pass this URL. Okay, URL and string username. We have many ways, guys. Only the thing is like we have to understand which way we can use. Okay, so username. So this is a key, right? So what is the key that we have in the properties file? That key we have to pass. Okay, now it is like password. Property reader dot get value of this password. Okay, now you see that I'm going to remove this URL now. URL and here sending username. Here it is like password. Okay, now you see that we are reading this data from the property reader. Property reader is like this is a property file and property reader would be returning you this value. Okay, so let's go and try to execute this. So first it should load the browser. See, it has loaded the browser. It will enter the URL. Then it will enter the username and password. But this time we are not reading it from the Excel file. We are reading it from the properties file. Okay, we'll wait for 5 seconds and it will close. See, what is the use of this now? See, now we are not going to hard code anything. We have this properties file and this property reader would be reading the data and it's going to return me this particular value based on the key that I'm supplying. Okay, from where we are getting it now, it's like we are getting it from here. Okay, for example, now as I was discussing the example here, let us take we have Sat, yeah. So this is okay. The test class I'm talking. Okay. Now this one I want to delete it. Come to the Excel file. We have like test2, test class, test2, and test3, right? I'm going to see now. I'm going to copy it and paste it here. Test2, copy it and paste it here. Test3. Now you see that we have 3 different classes, and I want to run it from the XML file also. So in 3 different classes, we have the same username, password, and we have the same URL. Okay, so and other thing is like you want to project this, what is the URL that you have entered? Okay, so here also you can put, now you see it's very easy, right? URL, you can put the URL, and the username what you have entered is like username plus, let's see here also. I'm just going to cut it, paste it here. Go and run it now. You see the different logs here. Now it's like username, password, and URL will be logged here. Okay, so this one, go to the Excel. Now you see this showing like this URL entered and admin, and this is the username admin entered, admin 123 entered. Okay, so now like it's like we are trying to read the data from the properties file. Okay, there are like multiple ways we can read data from properties files. Down the line, how do we see this? Like we are going to have this iteration. Now you see we have that data provider also, right? If you want to read the data from the data provider, that is also quite possible. So a few things that we want to get from the data provider. In that case, we can use data provider also. I want to enter only URL from the properties file, and I want to enter username and password from the data provider. So that also quite possible. How do we do it? So I'm just showing like example. I'll delete this. Okay, let me take this one as like string username and string password. Okay, so now I want to read this value from the data provider. So here I'm going to give the data provider is equals to login. Okay, so login here directly providing some data provider. Data provider private. What is that we want to return? We want to return in 2-dimensional, right? So what is it? Name of the data provider? Login. So to recognize it, here I'm going to give name. Is equals to login. So here what I'm returning? Here I'm returning return new object. Okay, so object array, that's something what I'm going to use. 2-dimensional. Okay, so already we discussed about it, right? How do we create this 2-dimensional array now? So how many iterations that you want? Admin 1, 2, 3. So another one is like, so you want to have 2 iterations. Admin 2, 3. we are reading data URL from the properties file, and we are logging the information in the log4j like logs, and then we are trying to use the data provider with 2 iterations here. Okay, so I'm getting this admin password from the data provider, URL from this properties file. Okay, so now you can see that I am just using data provider is equals to this and username and password. Let me just go and run it now. So you'll see that 2 iterations will be run. Like this is nothing but data driven testing. Okay, so data driven testing. So instead of reading it from the Excel file, I'm just using their hard coded values. If you want to read data from the Excel file, we already looked into it, right? So we need to have the Excel file. From there, we are going to read the data and return that as like two-dimensional array object. Okay, it will wait for 5 seconds and close. Again, it will open a new browser. We see that we have 2 tests which are right from this. Okay, open this and you see this is what it has executed. These things are logged into this log fetch. Okay, so from where we are getting the URL we are getting it from this particular class. Okay, so this is like properties file that we have to create. And still, if you want to go down and if you want to just put it parallel, just put it as like a parallel here, and you can configure this particular test, whatever test that we are putting it as like WebDriver. So make it as like a thread local, then WebDriver, supply it as like WebDriver driver.get, and everything will be running parallel. Okay, this is nothing but parallel execution. Okay, so as I told you, like we'll be clubbing all of them, right? So we have clubbed a lot of things now. So we have like test change is there, and we have log4j is there, and we have like properties file is added, and we have like a data provider also. So likewise, we'll keep on adding the things. Next, we'll be discussing about like extent reports. How do we add the extent reports to this? Now we are logging it here, but I want to get that report as like which I can send it to the team actually. Okay. So how do we configure that? So we are going to use the extent report and extent Spark reports for that. So for that we need to add the dependencies here. And another thing is like we ran from the single class and we want to run it from the multiple from the pom.xml. So that is also quite possible. Now you see that we are going to execute it. The one test would be running twice and the altogether one class, one browser, and second class it will run 2 browsers, and third class it will run 1 browser. Okay, so now we are running it from the pom.xml file. Okay, so this is nothing but the project that we have just created. Only thing is like we'll be keep on adding those pages and tests. Okay, if I add this log4j extend reports and configure other properties file, everything would be like kind of hybrid framework. Only if you are reading data from the Excel file, then that is nothing but data driven. Hybrid is like adding more things. Okay, so more things and the structure would be changing. Now we are executing it from the pom.xml file, so which will execute as like a complete project. So it is showing all full test cases are executed. I can see that how this log would be shown now. It is shown this way. Okay, for example, I'll take one more example. Only I'll take 2 minutes of your time, please. So let us take this test class. Oh, okay. So this test class has some exception. I want to record this exception. Okay, so if everything goes good, that is fine. Otherwise, I want to record this exception. Catch exception. And here, how do I report it now? See, log dot error. Dot so here I'm going to intentionally make some mistake here. I'll take this one as like only 5 seconds, otherwise it will wait for longer time. Now you run it. It is trying to identify that element. It says like invalid selector or else no such element exception. Then it will terminate. I mean, like it's not terminating because we are not closing the browser, right? So here you can see what it is in. Okay, so it is handled here. You can see what is that information that we got is like trace. It is not showing up here because trace itself is a message here. So I'll get what is that localized message that I should. Okay. So after this, I want to create it. Okay. So let me just take this one and I want to create it here. So if it's not able to find that element, just low and you can do two things. One is like you can use here or you can use finally block also. Okay. So I will see that. Just run it. So why this log is required? See, now this is the reason why we are going to use the logs. So it will show it as like error. Log.error is nothing but it's going to show it as like error. I think we have to enhance that from the error. Yeah, here you can see. What is that it is showing now? All the information, no such element exception. And after that is closing the browser. So let me just go to this log file and we'll see. Now you see what is the information. Now we can identify again. So there is some problem at this location. Okay, so it says like username. Here something is missing. Okay, no such element exception. It's not able to identify this element based on the expert. So now you can see that what it is doing. It is showing everything inside this log. Okay, so this is how we'll be working with the help of like Log4j. Okay, the other one is like we discussed about the how do we use this property file size. Now you see that we are going to record all these things as like key value pair in the properties file. We are going to put it here. And if you want to change anything, directly you can change it here. Okay, so if you want to change username password, you can change it here. You need not to go to that particular file and change it. The URL is like one thing that we generally don't change. So one-time configuration, we are putting it here. Okay, so guys, I'll stop it here. And you can just try to practice this, guys. This is very important because we are just rolling into the project design. Okay, so I just today we created some folders here. So you can see these are the folders that we have created. So source main resource and project util. So under this util, we are adding like logger class and property reader class. Logger class will help you to create the object for the logger. Okay, logger interface, and property reader is like it will help you to read the data from the property file. So these are like few simple steps that we have here. So I try to show you like getter setter also we can use. So here if you want to like see, here I'm just creating a get value. So if you want to store values like getter setters, that we can do the getter setter. That's nothing but we are going to use the encapsulation. Okay. So please go through this video, guys. Let me know if you have any doubts. And important is like please practice, guys. If you don't practice, you'll forget.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, sir.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Let's meet tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.